What is Pegasus Rising?
Pegasus Rising is a nonprofit in San Diego. We're located in Escondido. We partner horses with veterans who have PTSD and traumatic brain injury through equine therapy.
Do you want to know his name?
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Dragon March booth where we have all the things. We carry oils, herbs, teas, and a variety of other things. We are the Something Different booth, and not only that, but we're the best smelling one.
So, your name and your dolls.
My name is Elisa Stern. I created Dr. Puppet, which is stop motion animated Doctor Who.
Can we see some of your dolls?
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite?
Yes. I don't really have a favorite. I have ones I'm more attached to, and I'm very attached to these three because I've done a lot with them. Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't really work.
I don't really have a favorite, but these are the three I'm most attached to, especially 12. I've done a lot with 12. We have traveled the world together, so I'm very attached to him.
Wow. So, what made you decide to start doing these?
I've been doing stop motion puppets longer than I've even known what Doctor Who was. So really it kind of naturally came together. I needed to make a stop motion puppet, so I made the 11th Doctor into a puppet because by then I was into Doctor Who. I thought Matt Smith would make a great puppet. So it just kind of like fell into place. It's really hard to explain. But once I made him, all the others just followed and I ended up animating them and made this whole thing called Doctor Puppet.
Cool. So, do you make all of the clothing?
I've made most of the clothing. I haven't made all of it actually. I have a friend Amanda who's a really talented seamstress and she's really great at patterning and she's really great at recreating costumes. So when I started making the puppet, she reached out and she said, I'd love to help with the costumes. So she's been really helpful. She helped me make some of the trickier ones, especially all those middle doctors, like the 6th Doctor. She made that costume. I could not have made that. But I did make 13's costume. I was really proud of that because that was really difficult and I pulled it off.
What was difficult about it?
What was the most difficult about 13's costume is that I made it when there was only one photo of the costume. So I only had one image to go off of. I didn't know what the back looked like. I had to guess. And also her costume's complicated because it's just a long, this long coat. Very flowy. It had a lot of detail, weirdly, like all of the trim and everything for how small it was. It's very difficult to recreate that trim at this scale. And then also just a lot of detail, like her suspenders, her braces, and also her shoes, because she's different in that she's the only doctor who has trousers that are short enough to show off the tops of her boots and her socks. Normally, I don't make the tops of the puppets' shoes, nor their socks, nor their ankles. They don't even have ankles, really. They're just bare wire. So I had to make all of that visible on the 13th Doctor, so that was really hard.
Oh, does she have earrings?
And also, yes, and she also has earrings. When I saw that in the promo image, I was squinting and I was like, she's got earrings. Oh, wow. I have to make earrings.
How did she get earrings if she went from a guy to
I
a
know.
girl?
Well, she didn't have the earring right away. She must have picked it up in that thrift shop.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how the earring appeared. She saw that and said, I'll have that. I guess it's a clip-on because I don't think there was a piercing shop in the back of that thrift shop. Who knows?
No running around though.
So, what got you into Doctor Who?
I got into Doctor Who through friends. It was actually a job I was working at the time. A few people were into Doctor Who, and I was new to this job, so people were talking about it, and they were really excited. And I said, I better watch that show so I can talk about it with my new coworkers. And their excitement just made me want to get into it. And I mean, they don't know what they did to me because I got far more into Doctor Who than any of them eventually.
Were you kind of surprised that your dolls and everything took off?
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah. It's his tie down coming off. It's fine.
He's making a break for
He's
it.
making a break for it, that's right. I was a little surprised when the puppet puppets were so popular. By the time I had made all of them, I wasn't surprised. It originally was just 11, so when people really liked my 11th Doctor puppet, I was really pleasantly surprised. I didn't really know, I'd never done fan art and put it out there like that before. So originally, before I animated them, I would just post photos of the puppet on Tumblr back in 2012, of course, because that's when I started my Tumblr blog. And I was really surprised at how well received it was. So that's what, that reception really made me want to make more and also make more interesting and complicated things. So that's why I started animating them. And then one thing led to the other. And I made all the Doctors and did a lot of animation with them.
Huh? Is there anything else you'd like to share that you would normally share with somebody who walks up and meets you here?
Yeah, if you haven't seen Dr. Puppet, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to YouTube, search Dr. Puppet. You're going to find a lot of animation with these puppets. Check
I'll
it
search
out.
that for you. It will be in the link.
Oh, perfect. Check out the link below to go see my stop motion animation on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. Don't have the same handle everywhere, but just search Dr. Puppet and you will find me and the puppets.
I've got a copy somewhere of the World Tour, the Earth Conquest, whatever.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah.
That's me in it, yeah.
I love that.
And you.
Because what was that was actually really good for as a fan thing because
Mom, I'm here.
Rob Lloyd was on there as well. He did a wonderful stand-up show. Comedy stand-up. And then I met him when I went to Australia to do the symphonic tour because he was hosting there. And then he brought his show to UK.
Yes.
Okay. We'll start with panel number one, and the reason we do that is because this is the scene that you see most often when you watch Doctor Who. The Eighth Doctor is standing here, actually, so you can see this panel. And we call this panel number one.
Okay. So what all does this panel do?
Well, to tell you the truth, we built it. I can't tell you what everything is. But I imagine these are destinations and times and places.
Okay.
Of course, you've got the dates in the year, the days, hours, minutes, and so on. And I would imagine that's why they had the 3 clocks up here for different time zones in different places. But like I said, we just went off to patterns in the pictures that we could find. And I was talking to someone yesterday who worked on the restoration of the original, and he said this was a pretty accurate representation, so that made us feel pretty good.
Right on. But I mean, what moves on it?
Well, on this one, all of these rollers will move. These move, they don't do anything, but they represent what was on the actual original. Your brake moves, light comes on to show you the brake is on. And I'm told you have to make sure that it's off when you take off, otherwise it makes a loud screeching noise.
Right on.
And we couldn't figure it out in the beginning why this lamp, even though it was attached to this panel, was leaning this way, and it's to illuminate all of that.
Okay.
And it's funny to watch the kids play with this because they'll immediately swing it around to this panel.
So is this panel 2?
This is panel number 2. It's got one bank of switches here, operates all the lights. And it does nothing but turn lights on, off and on.
And this is you were telling me earlier that this is actual stained glass?
Yeah, this is stained glass. Linda and Murray both did the glass panels.
Turn that off just to get a better...
Oh yeah, a lot of glare.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Okay. And then the original of these was actually about this big, and we checked online to see what they were, and they go behind doorknobs, and they ran about $90 a piece. So what I did is I just took flat brass cut the pattern out, mounted it on top of walnut to give it the illusion that it was a thicker piece of brass. And it worked out pretty good. We made them smaller. The proportion is smaller on this one than on the original. This dial here on the original is also just about this big. So these lights are down here on the original instead of over here. So, panel number 3. This is where it starts deviating quite a bit from the original. This panel on the original has a lot more things on it. Do not push is but we have you start seeing pieces that are showing up from other types of equipment, like these are from an old stereo. So this was actually the knob off of an antique glass cutter. So here, let's turn those down. Slide that back and forth. This is a telephone insulator. We cut the bottom off of it to give it a lower profile. These two are perfume bottles.
I can see that, yeah.
We cut the neck off and just turn them upside down.
Yeah, because you can get your finger under them, yeah. Wow.
And then our one of our members, George, is great with gauges, and he makes all the gauges flicker and rock all the time instead of just being static.
Oh.
So they'll jump around and do things.
Would you? I'm kind of resting here so that you can see it, because if I do a really quick one, you almost can't see it.
But it's most builds like this. The gauges that you see, the needles are static. They'll either be at 0 or they'll be in one position only. They don't move. These are constantly moving, which gives the illusion of something going on.
Yeah, that is really neat.
There we go. The sun is coming down and blinding us here. And these just go back and forth this way. It's either one on or the other on. And then these control these. This I call the irritation machine because it does that.
Yes, all weekend.
And the kids, it's like, okay, enough. So then we move around to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, panel 5.
5.
This was off of an old piece of equipment that we got from UCSD. One of their departments, one of their labs, had a bunch of equipment that they closed down the lab and they wanted to get rid of it, so they asked me if I wanted it. So there it is. It got a new life.
As a companion locator.
Yes. Well, this little label holder was there, and it looked sad, empty.
Oh.
So we made a label, the companion locator. And this one, you've got 3 or 4 switches that worked, like there. And it's nice. It's the only double throw switch on the whole thing, which I thought was kind of fun.
Very interesting.
Then moving around to panel 6, this looks very impressive and complicated, but it doesn't do anything. We patterned this after the original. Theirs, it looks like they used Bakelite. We just used black plastic. The knobs are 3D printed. The contact points are copper rivets. And we just took black washers and pushed them through. And then normally these would be for connecting wires. You unscrew it, put a wire under it. So those are connectors, but we glued all these on so people wouldn't be unscrewing them. This was a whole lamp, desk lamp, and I just cut it in half and stuck it on there. If you're familiar with Steampunk and Tim Holt from Michaels, this is one of the pieces from there, and I just cut the bottom off and stuck a light in it. These solid brass, on the original they had some lettering down here, but I took a piece of brass sheeting, thick brass sheeting, and we saltwater etched them.
Wow.
So same thing with the brake label right there.
Brake label.
And that takes us to central core.
Now, this is really. There's just no way I'm going to get a good shot because it's really bright.
Right.
But I'm going to try and zoom in so that the brightness isn't as much, and you can see that it has the Gallifreyan etching. Yeah.
And the first two. Well, let's see if this works.
Oh.
Is that better?
Yes, that is.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Try it from this angle.
Oh yeah. There we go.
It's kind of hard to see it. But the first two crystals, I'm going to turn it back on, so your color's going to go wacko here. There we go. The first two columns spell out TARDIS.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I can see that they're matched. Yeah.
So then, here, where's the card? And anyway, the third, fourth, and fifth all are phrases from Doctor Who.
Okay.
The fifth one being time can be changed. So the sixth one we left blank. If time can be changed, you got to rewrite it.
Beautiful.
So this took us between 5 and 6 months to make. It was a piece that was commissioned by WhoCon, so it now belongs to them, which is good because I didn't want to store it.
This was something commissioned by you, or I mean commissioned. What I meant is it was commissioned. They commissioned you, or they commissioned Starburners?
Well, Starburner, I'm kind of the cat herder for Starburner.
Okay.
So when they approached me with the idea of us building it, I took the idea to all of our members and said, okay, we've been asked if we could do this, and immediately 3 or 4 of them almost jumped out of their skin and said, yes, we can do this. So
and it seems like a lot of found objects.
We do. We like to. Well, originally we're a steampunk group, so we do a lot of repurposing. We're the people that find old clocks and old typewriters and things like that and use pieces and parts out of it. But it's the same thing here. Like this was from an old lamp. This was actually a counterweight in a grandfather clock, and I cut out one side of it and turned it into a light. What else do we have? The knob on top, like I said before, was an antique glass cutter, stereo switches.
Right. Almost everything that you pointed out, you've gotten from someplace.
Right.